I'm Vinny Politan. Great to have you with us tonight here on Closing Arguments. Quiet. Do you hear that? Can you listen closely? I think you can hear it. Those are the wheels of justice turning really slowly. And that's got to be one of the biggest criticisms of our system of justice. It takes so long for everything. And tonight we are starting with the case against the doomsday couple, Lori and Chad Daybell. She's been behind bars since early in 2020. We're coming up on 2022. And today, a hearing. And a big part of the hearing was determining, when are we going to have this trial? I hear it again. Man, those wheels are turning really slow. Take a listen to what happened today out in Idaho.
Quite honestly, my hope was to have this case tried in 2022. I'd note that while the case at bar here was started in May of this year, it was initially Mr. Daybell was taken into custody and arrested in related case that stemmed first and went into this case. And that occurred back in June of 2020. So that was almost 18 months ago. So even if we looked at a 3-year setting from when he was initially charged, we still wouldn't be to the fall of 2023. And I understand the burden. Well, I won't say I understand it. I've been a prosecutor before, not on a case like this, but I understand it's a huge undertaking, would require a lot of time and preparation, and I want to afford the state that opportunity. But I also have to weigh that against the interests of a defendant to have a timely trial, waiver of speedy time or not. And so in consideration of all of that, I've also done some checking of my own with calendars, coordinating things with Ada County, where this trial is scheduled to occur. And I've determined then that an appropriate time to be looking for trial will be in January of 2023. So that will still provide 14 months of preparation time from now going forward. There's other motions I understand still need to be litigated that could impact things and need to be scheduled as well, in particular the motion to sever. But in terms of setting trial, I do want to get it on the docket. There's a lot of planning that goes involved, a lot of scheduling issues, and I don't want to be looking at the prospect of having to move the trial once it's set. So upon all those considerations then, counsel, I'd ask that you start looking at your calendars right now and let's see what would be available in terms of a commencement date in the month of January 2023.
Unbelievable. 14 months from now, Lori Daybell will be behind bars for like 3 years when this trial begins. Chad Daybell got a few extra months of freedom, but unreal. Let's bring in Court TV legal correspondent Tylee Painter, who's with us tonight. We have a bunch to talk about. First of all, this date. So is that a date for both Chad Daybell and Lori Daybell? Because I didn't see her in the Zoom call, and I know there's an issue with her competency.
That's correct. This is a joint trial. So yes, it's for both Chad and Lori to be on trial together January 9th, 2023. We gotta wait a while, Vinny, for this trial. And also remember, Chad is facing the death penalty in this case. They allotted 10 weeks for this trial. And one of the points of contention today had to do with the defense saying, we don't want to wait for the competency of Lori. We don't know when she will be fit to stand trial. And one of her defense attorneys spoke during the hearing about a possible timeline. Let's listen.
Mr. Archibald, do you have any thoughts on when you may be prepared for trial, or other than speculation as to when you may have a competent client?
No timeline as to when she may be restored to competency. Those are issues that we can talk about privately.
He goes on to say that she's not even able to determine or to waive a speedy trial at this point All of her proceedings, Vinny, are on hold since June when she was deemed unfit to stand trial. So again, the judge hinting at this motion to sever. We'll have to wait and see what he does for that. But as of right now, both Chad and Lori do face trial January 2023 in Boise, remember, not East Idaho.
That's right. The trial's been moved. The date's been pushed. So I'm marking it down on my calendar. It seemed from the way the judge was speaking, this is going to be the real date. So obviously anything can happen. But, you know, when the judge wants it to happen, it happens. Okay, the other big news today, and this kind of surprised me, is that the grand jury is being reconvened. Please explain what's going on here.
Yeah, Vinny, according to multiple sources into Court TV, the Fremont County Prosecutor's Office is reconvening the grand jury investigation into the deaths of Tylee, JJ, and Tammy Daybell. This is taking place tomorrow, Vinny. It's a one-day session, and so we don't know, of course, because grand jury proceedings are secretive, the purpose of this, what's going to happen, but it's big news to know that they are reconvening that grand jury. Here is a look at the process in Idaho about a grand jury. It's essentially a panel of citizens who will meet together to determine, they'll hear evidence, and they'll determine whether or not criminal charges should be initiated on whatever issue they're taking up. It consists of 16 qualified jurors of Fremont County, 12 or more members constitute a quorum there, and so a grand jury can deliberate and make decisions only if that quorum is present. It takes 12 unanimous to indict someone in Idaho. Also, the grand jury proceeding, like I said, they're private, they're secret, there's no defendant, no cross-examination. Now, the prosecuting attorneys can be present and present information during this, but the grand jury ultimately will determine whether or not probable cause exists and a criminal proceeding should be initiated for whatever they want to address and return an indictment. Remember, this happened initially in May, Vinny, when we reported they were gathering this investigation. It was a 5-day long grand jury that resulted in multiple murder charges against Chad and Lori Daybell and the deaths of the children and Tammy. So I was curious as to the timing of the grand jury. So there is Rule 6.7 here under the Idaho Rules of Criminal Procedure, and it provides that a grand jury must serve until discharged by the court, but no grand jury may serve more than 6 months unless specifically ordered by the court that summoned that jury. So by my count, Vinny, it's been more than 6 months since they were first convened in May. So it would seem as though the prosecutors in this case had to request some sort of special permission and extension, an order from this court to have the session tomorrow, which would be proper. So.
Now, they've both been implicated in all 3 deaths, correct? So
Yes.
It's not like, well, Lori hasn't been charged yet relative to Tammy's death, or Chad hasn't been charged relative to the kid's death either. So is it, I guess the 2 possibilities are additional charges and or additional defendants.
That would be accurate. That makes sense to me, Vinny. Either more charges for somehow with Lori or Chad in the deaths. They've all 3 been charged with the murders, conspiracy to commit murder or first-degree murder of Tylee, JJ, or Tammy. Possibly maybe more involved than we know. We'll just have to wait and see if the grand jury indicts anyone or further, or if they don't do anything, then we wouldn't really know that either because it is secretive.
Wow. That's a fascinating development, and we'll have to wait and see what it actually means here. Chanley Painter on top of all the breaking news. Thank you so much, Chanley. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Vinny.
Let's bring in our think tank tonight, get a little reaction. Joining us in the Bronx, New York, criminal defense attorney Renee Hill. In Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, family law attorney Jennifer Brandt is with us. And in Atlanta, Georgia, criminal defense attorney Emory University law professor Molly Palmer is with us. Welcome, everyone. Renee, what's going on here? We got the grand jury meeting again. We've already charged them in the 3 murders, both of them. So should we maybe have our eyes and ears open that there will be additional potential defendants involved in all of this?
That is definitely a possibility, Vinny. And just like you and Chanley were just stating, they are going back before this grand jury again with additional evidence that they wish to submit. And that could turn out to be additional defendants being implicated and being indicted in this case, or additional charges being filed against one or more of the parties that we already have here, meaning Chad or Lori.
Molly Palmer, I'm a former prosecutor. I know the way they think, the way they work. If, in fact, there's an additional defendant out there, maybe it's someone they want to charge so they can flip them and get some inside information on what was going on in the midst of this doomsday madness.
Right. Well, I would never be a former prosecutor, but I think you're totally right, Vinny. I think that might be exactly what they're doing, right? Because we started off with Chad and Lori, and now we know Lori is really no use to the prosecution. And I know we've talked about before on court TV, is one of them going to flip on the other? Well, at this point, it really would strategically make sense for prosecutors to indict somebody else. And we know that there are a lot of people in this cast of characters between these two, and use that person to gain information and leverage them and say, listen, you don't want to go to prison. What can you tell us about Chad? What can you tell us about Lori? Prosecutors do it all the time.
There are other people that are in there, that circle that they had, but I don't know how closely tied they are. I mean, there's a niece, there's some other folks that maybe we'll have some information, but Jennifer Brandt, that's one way to really motivate someone to provide testimony if they then face charges themselves.
Absolutely. But, it's just so odd why things are taking so long and why they're dragging this process out. I mean, this case has been going on for such a long time. And while now they have sort of Chad and Lori where they need them, who else are they bringing in? I mean, it just makes you wonder, why is this taking so long? Why is it going on? And why is the trial
I have a
so
theory.
far away?
I have a theory. Perhaps Chad Daybell has predicted another end of the world date, and he wants the trial set after that date so he doesn't have to stand trial.
It didn't work, though, Vinny. It didn't work last time. They already had the end of the world, and it didn't happen. So could be, but I don't know about that.
I'm always interested, Renee, when there are clients who are, I know everyone's presumed innocent, right? And they're looking forward to their trial, how they can be so patient behind bars, waiting for their day in court. Not that I feel that bad for them. I'm just wondering, in curiosity, what are those conversations like when you say, okay, Chad, we're going to have that day in court 14 months from now?
Well, first of all, it's certainly not easy for them to be so patient, and they always aren't patient, but they have to be, right? They have no choice. We can't speed it up any faster than what it is going. And in murder cases, those cases do take longer. And so the conversations that you're having with your client, you're explaining to them why the case takes so long, because there's the medical examiner's reports, there's the police reports, there's the investigative reports. You have all of these documents that have to be gone through. You have your own investigators that are out there doing their job, and all of these things. And then there are all of the motions on top of it that are being made. So it takes time. And that's what you have to explain to your client. And unfortunately, they're sitting in jail waiting for this to get to trial. But time usually works for the defense. And so we explain that to them as well.
All right, Molly, can you explain to the folks at home why, a case like Derek Chauvin is tried within a year? A super high-profile case like that is tried within a year. Kyle Rittenhouse, a little over a year. And here we are in this case, which is now set for, it'll be 3 years after the arrest, but, almost 4 years or 3.5 years or so after the murders.
It's because every single jurisdiction is different, Vinny. And so every single courtroom has its own culture, its own way of moving cases, its own number of cases. The issues that Renee just went through in this specific case, I think, are causing a lot more need for the time. But sometimes as defense lawyers, strategically, you do want to push ahead to trial in some high profile cases or certain cases where maybe it's important to go ahead.
O.J. Simpson, his first trial.
Right. Yeah. See, so it really depends. It's a case by case thing. It's a jurisdiction by jurisdiction thing. Honestly, I think this one is going to last forever because with Lori Vallow, Idaho does not have the insanity defense. It's one of the few states that doesn't. And I think that this case could actually go all the way to the Supreme Court, given her mental state and the fact that she cannot allege an insanity defense at trial.
Yeah. Jen Brandt, people lose a little trust in our system because everything takes so long, right? I mean, and this is a prime example. Obviously, things will happen. I know the lawyers are working hard. on both sides, the prosecution and the defense, diving into this, every issue. It's a very layered case. There's a lot of bodies, but there's also a lot of evidence. There's many different locations. I understand all of that. But the overall perception for the public is that, yeah, our system of justice, part of the reason it's broken is because everything takes so long.
Well, that is the perception, and that's really the reality. It does take forever. I mean, I have clients that complain about that all the time. Just justice moves so slowly. And to Renee's point, I mean, it's up to the lawyers to really explain, that things are taking a long time because this is, everything has to be gone through thoroughly, and courts just move along quite slowly. I think it must be very, very difficult, though, when someone's sitting in jail and having to hear that when, the presumption is that they're innocent, so until proven otherwise. So they must be very, very frustrated with this long process.
Yeah. Here's my final take, though, on this segment. Is I think Molly Palmer would be a good prosecutor. I think we can bring her over to the right side. Right? She's gonna have to take a pay cut. Got to take the pay cut, Molly. But I think you could do it.
No thanks, I decline.
Okay. All right.